Pooh. I'm just about to go live on Instagram. Um okay, let's do Instagram as well because it's good to have people join in different places. So when they do join on Instagram, I'll just tell them to go to YouTube. Okay, good evening. How are you doing? Tell me where you're joining me from. Parenting Unfiltered, live on YouTube, link in bio. Okay, so that is set for Instagram. Hi, everybody. Tell me where you're joining me from. Good evening. It's been a minute on here, and I am so happy that today is possible. If you're watching from Instagram, please head over to YouTube. The link is in my bio. The session starts fully at 7 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. WAT. I'm just joining in early so that we can do some, housekeeping before I bring on my guest. I came with my notes and my pen because my guest tonight is my I just need to because my guest today is my career mentor. So even me, I'm coming to learn, okay? So stay tuned. Go and bring pen, go and bring your book because we are going to start shortly. My guest is in the waiting room. I'm going to add him up very soon. So if you are seeing me for the first time, my name is Simlulu Ibidumoyi, but my friends call me the Global Woman. And the Lord gave me the vision for Parenting Unfiltered earlier this year. And it is just like a burden. Oopsie, I muted myself on Instagram. And this is just a burden. Parenting Unfiltered came as a vision from God because it's a burden that I have for mothers, for parents. It is my strong desire that I see parents strive, in parenting. I don't want to see people just do parenting because, oh, I got married and I had children. So the goal is to see parents strive and not, to struggle or do parenting just because. So you have to enjoy parenting, you have to thrive in parenting, and that is the goal. Mr. O, I'm going to add you shortly. I can see that you're about to join. And we started in the month of February. We have had different guests. We've talked about parenting as a first-time mom. We've talked about lactation. We've talked about raising godly children in this generation. We've talked about a lot of things. And today, the topic is a huge burden on my heart, and that is why I invited my career mentor, who is a senior social worker, to talk about parenting in the UK, especially for African immigrant parents. And I'm very sure that it's going to be useful for you, even if you are, in the US or in diaspora generally. So as we go in, let's say a word of prayer. That's very important. Dear God, we thank you so much for making today possible. Thank you, Father, for my guests. Thank you for my audience. I pray, Lord God, that tonight you speak to us, oh God, everything that you need us to learn in our parenting journey. Father, guide us and, teach us that we will be parents that will be after your heart, that you help us to raise the next generation of children that will serve you and bring a change to the world in Jesus' name. Amen. Ensure that things are going Welcome again and again. And I'm going to add my guest shortly because even though I told him 7, he's here early. Everybody, let me see your clapping hands because I have in the room my career mentor, the person that used to ginger me to do higher things in my career. This man, we fought things together in this life. Welcome. Oh, I can see the hearts. I can see the emojis. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for
My pleasure.
saying yes to this. Honestly, I am so honored.
My
So
pleasure.
I'm going to go ahead and read his bio. I was telling them to go and bring book and paper because even me,
Oh my
I mean book
goodness.
and pen, because even me, I came to learn. I came to learn. So if you're joining us, please tell us where you're joining from, your name and where you're joining from. Just to add to everybody, if you're joining on YouTube, YouTube sends or shows videos to people in different parts of the world. So in case you see anybody with a funny comment, don't worry, I'll just be blocking from here because it can be like very, very interesting when people just, join YouTube and then say different things like, how are you, add me, or things like that. But yeah, I'm sure that our main audience are here as well and their comments will be flooding into. But yeah, that is technology for you. We cannot block people. And of course, everybody's here to learn. Okay, so my guest today, his name is Oyeyinka Olaniran, and I'm just going to go through his bio and then we start immediately. Oyeyinka possesses a comprehensive academic background, holding a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in mental health, and a master's in social work. With a career extending over a decade, he has established himself as a certified practice educator and a dedicated leader committed to fostering the growth and proficiency of others. He is an EMCC accredited coach and mentor, recently gaining a qualification in equality, diversity, and inclusion from the University of Greenwich. Oyinka has actively participated in frontline leadership and innovation programs, earning the Frontline Fellowship Award in May 2023 for his commitment to anti-racist practice and leadership. Having worked in diverse multicultural environments, including Lambeth, Redbridge, and Bexley, Oyeinka currently serves as the service manager for the Child Protection Chairs and Independent Reviewing Service in Bexley. He is also recognized as an accredited coach and mentor by the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, EMCC, and has recently attained accreditation in equality, diversity, and inclusion from the University of Greenwich, London. Oyeyinka's involvement with the frontline has been extensive, participating in programs such as the First Line Leadership Program, Frontline Innovation Program, and Frontline Pathway 3 Program. In May 2023, he was honored with the Frontline Fellowship Award for his unwavering dedication to anti-racist practice, leadership, and innovation. Oyeyinka is an author and holds a profound commitment to charitable work in the United Kingdom and in East Africa. He focuses on initiatives such as sponsoring children in school, providing essential needs, facilitating medical treatment, and spreading the gospel. As a trustee of one of the prominent charity organizations in the United Kingdom, Empowering Vulnerable Children, EVC, in Uganda, he continues to make significant contributions to charitable causes. I can go on and on and on. And the reason I chose my guest today is because he's not just a social worker. Like, there's one thing for someone to say, "Oh, social worker, come and talk to us." But if somebody that is a child of God, is a Christian, and you people know that, for me, in as much as parenting unfiltered is for people generally, God is at the center of it, and He has also successfully raised teenagers in the UK. So this is not somebody that is coming to talk to us by the books. He's a father and he had his children in the UK, and now they are teenagers. So he's coming to tell us how it was because my child is 2, and I'm just like, oh my god, how are we gonna do all the years? So welcome with me, Mr. Oyeyinka Olaniran, to Parenting Unfiltered.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you,
How are
thank
you
you,
doing
thank you.
today?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Thank God. Thank God.
Thank
And thank you
you.
for
Thank you so
inviting me
much for
as well.
joining us today. So, of course, our topic today is one that I'm sure a lot of people always like ask questions about. In fact, I've heard somebody say one time that social services, they just want to take our children. Social workers, they're not there to be your friend, though. They just want to take your children and things like that. I've heard a lot of things, and I'm like, okay, calm down. Before you just say social workers want to come and take your children, what did you do? What happened? There has to be a background. Nobody will just wake up one day and say, Coco, Mr. Oh yeah, bring out your children. I want to take them. So that is why I put this topic together, parenting in the UK, what African parents need to do. And the African there can be immigrant parents, anybody, even British parents themselves also need to like be reminded of a lot of things. And just because of our time, we'll go straight to the questions, and we'll be touching on social services, touching on how to, imbibe our culture and in our children as African parents, because for me, sometimes the balance is what I find like, how do we do it? How do I teach my child that you should kneel down as a girl to greet, and somebody will not look at it outside as, why are you telling your child to kneel down? That balance is very, very important. So, are we good to go?
Yes, let's carry on.
Okay, so sorry if you can just be a little bit more legible. I mean audible. I just say legible, so that we
Can you
can
hear
hear
me
you
now?
perfectly well.
Is it better?
Yes, much, much better. Okay, so my first question is, many African parents fear social services. Can you
Mm.
explain what the UK child protection system really is and what actually triggers their involvement? As I said earlier, like social workers, they want to come and take our children. So a lot of parents live in that fear. And
Mm.
then, when they maybe encounter social services, instead of them to work alongside, they just go defensive and then complicate matters. So what exactly is the UK child protection system? What is the expectations of the government from parents, and what actually triggers their involvement?
Thank you. I think the UK child protection system, just as the name suggests, is designed to safeguard children from harm and to make them safe. And going back to your question, why many African parents fear social services? And I think if we address the issue of fear, number one, people have formed impressions. People have also taken other people's lived experiences of social services and translated that into what could possibly happen
Mm,
without, because of course people may tell you that social service is involved in their life but not give you the context.
mhm,
you know, because we're talking about sensitive matters, which might mean that social services will step in and they will be quite intrusive, depending on what is going on. So, at its core, the system exists, like I said, to support families, not to break families apart. And the foundation of child protection system in the UK is built on key legislative framework. We have the Children Act 1989 and the Amendment Act in 2004. And I know some of these acts may not make sense to, whoever is not involved, but I'll try to break it down. So we have a section of the Children Act called Section 17. Section 17 talks about children in need. So this is where social services would offer support to families to promote welfare. It means that we do not have safeguarding concerns. Now, the other part of it is what is called Section 47. Now, when you talk about Section 47, the local authority in this aspect must investigate any reasonable cause to suspect that a child is suffering or likely to suffer significant
mm,
harm. So, not necessarily when they have suffered, and this is where we have to be careful, where we have likelihood of harm. And harm could actually come in a number of ways.
mhm,
The one that is most prominent or known is physical harm, where you can see mark on children, where you can see bruises. But the others, say, for example, emotional harm, you
Mm-hmm.
can't actually see it. So this is something that is going on internally. And this is due to what a child perhaps have seen at home and is disturbing them psychologically and emotionally, they're acting out. So let me break it down to what actually triggers social services involvement, especially where it tips over to safeguarding. And I'll start with, the most common one that people know, physical chastisement or
Mm-hmm.
physical discipline. Now, when it comes to African parenting, and this is where a lot of people need to learn or learn and learn again. So most of us grew up, and I can say that where, we're used to, being
Akere.
beaten, and all of that. And when parents, African parents, or people of other culture come into the UK, they want to implement same level of
Yeah.
discipline. Now that does not work in the UK. Parents are not allowed to physically hit or chastise a child to the point of injury.
Mm.
So people might have, done that before, and they managed to get away with it. Here, it's not possible. You cannot do that. So, say for example, if a child goes to school with a mark or bruise or swelling and says, "Mom or Dad beat me," the school is legally required to report that to social services. And let me make it clear that this does not automatically mean removal,
Mm.
but it does trigger an assessment under Section 47 inquiries. What does that mean? That means that the local authority will then start to investigate, look into what actually happened,
Mm.
look into the intensity of the level of discipline. Of course, in the UK, we know of so many serious case
Yeah.
reviews. I mean, one happened recently in one of the local government, local authority in London, where this child sadly died.
Mm.
And they heard that on the phone saying, "I made a mistake. I overbeat my child."
Mm.
So we have to be careful. That is number one. So because you were asking me earlier, what actually triggers
Yeah.
involvement? I mean, social services, like you said when you were doing the intro, no one will just knock on your door. "Hello, I'm a social worker. I want." No, 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 no. It doesn't happen. And
Mm-hmm.
because people lack the knowledge of what social workers do, and that brings the fear of, at
Mm.
the sound of social services, people get to panic. It doesn't work that way. We're talking about a well structured system built on art, built on policies, built on procedures. The other part that would trigger social services involvement that I'd like to talk about is domestic abuse in the
Mm.
home. So even if the child is not physically harmed, the fact that a child has been exposed to incidences of domestic abuse might actually warrant social services stepping in. Now, it can go in two ways. One is where they physically harm in the act of parents engaging in physical fights, shouting, controlling, and coercive behavior, and the child or children might be caught in the middle of this. The other aspect is they're not even caught in the middle of all of this, but then hearing abuse,
Mm.
seeing abuse, seeing mom hitting dad, slapping dad, or dad doing the same to mom,
Mm.
it's enough to cause emotional harm. So if the child goes to school or makes a disclosure, "Oh, I saw that and mom fighting,"
Mm.
immediately professionals will, come in,
Yeah.
because one thing that will do is, how is that affecting you mentally? How is that affecting you psychologically? How is that affecting you emotionally?
Mm.
We've seen instances where children are exposed to domestic abuse and they begin to react in a number of ways, whether
Yeah.
bedwetting, anxiety, because they don't know what will happen, and that will trigger something for them emotionally. Another one is lack of supervision. So I'm just basically going into especially what happened, because there are connecting dots in all of this. We have African parents who have come here to, perhaps let's think it was greener pastures. They've come here to work and all of that. You know, back home, we have this notion of the community will look after the child. It's different here. You can't just leave a child at home and believe that they will be fine. You can call a neighbor to say, "Can you help me watch over?" They're fine. I'm
Yeah.
just no. So lack of supervision, leaving children at home, especially a young child, would actually trigger social services involvement. So, for example, a 7-year-old left at home while a parent is saying, I just want to quickly go out to somewhere."
Mm.
But again, too, when we look at it, anything can actually happen. This child or children can be adopted.
Yeah.
They can, because of their stage and age, say, for example, turn on the gas, harm themselves, and anything can happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we've looked at domestic abuse, we looked at physical chastisement, we looked at lack of supervision. Another one is neglect that is related to basic needs. So poor home conditions. And I
Mm.
know when it comes to cleanliness, it's subjective to interpretation. Because am I coming to your home now thinking, oh, I could actually do better. I could make it clean, I could organize things.
Mm.
But there are certain level of boundaries or bottom lines that you cannot cross. When the house is filthy, there's lack of food in the home, inappropriate clothing for the children, frequently missing school, untreated medical conditions.
Mm.
You see a child that is saying, complaining about something about their body. And as a parent, you're nonchalant, or you're unresponsive to what they're saying to you. So all of this will constitute neglect. I'll give us one more, and that is the mental health of parents. And this is tricky because, of course, mental health is not something that I would say is self inflicted. Because at some point in life, stuff happens, life
Yeah.
is happening, where people are going through, from from emotional distress, depression will kick in and all of that. And perhaps maybe for mental health, or how people handle situation, they start to misuse substance and all of that. So if a parent's, if a parent's mental health is not intact to
Mm.
the point where it's impacting on their parenting skills and abilities, then social services will step in, because at some point it would mean that that child will suffer harm. So you can see the trajectories that are
Yeah.
taking up to, that have touched on the fact that there are physical harm, have touched on the
Mm-hmm.
fact that there are also likelihood of harm as well that would lead to social services stepping in. So the most empowering thing any African parent can do is let us educate ourselves.
Mm.
Let us ask questions. Let us understand the system instead of relying on fear and misinformation. And that is what people do. Because for not for all you care, social services are there to help.
Yeah.
you know so they help in a number of ways, but we must educate ourselves. You're coming new into the system. How does this system work? What time do you go to school here? And all of these things would actually help instead of assume.
Thank you so, so much. That was like very, very explanatory. And the thing you said about lack of supervision made me
Mhm.
remember a story that somebody shared. I can't remember now if it happened in the UK or it happened back home, but the mom, I think it was in the UK, yeah. The mom, because of work. So that is like something that I really, really find quite, I won't say common, but people like do it thinking that nothing can happen. When you just say, I'm just going to leave my child at home for 1 hour. Let me just go and finish up at work,
So,
drop the child, quickly finish up at work. And then this particular day, there was a fire someplace. And before she came back from work, three of her children were stuck
wow,
in the fire and they died.
wow,
Now, I don't know the amount of money she wants to go and make that day. And of course, I heard she was arrested or something. And then even our husband, who was either back home or had traveled, his mental health is like down the drain right now, like because three children. And I tell people I understand that it might be tough to, look at your children. Like me, everybody that knows me knows because I always rant. I remember when I just started working and my child's nursery fee was £70 a day.
mm,
At the end of the month, I always felt robbed because I'm like, is it not literally the same thing? But I tell people that I'm not going to leave my child with somebody I don't know. Like another thing that some people do that I find risky is also you don't know this person from anywhere, but just because that person wants to collect just £20, you then
mm,
leave your child in their care. How are you sure that their house is, baby proof? How are you sure that your child is not just going to swallow something? So as parents, I understand that money is important, but please and please don't, because of money, which of course we know is important because these children also need the money, but don't because of that leave your children in harm's way or just leave them with anybody to watch or leave them at home. That's when your 7-year-old will want to fry eggs for his younger younger ones that you
yeah.
didn't do because out of care, they've not eaten, mommy is not back. And before you know it, there can be fire, burns, and things like that. So I really pray that God will help us to, um, just do better. And as you've heard, social workers are not coming to take your children. If there is no reason, if there is no just cause. And I think the question I want to ask to build on that is, what do you then do when you have like social workers involvement? So let me add it with my second question. My second question is, discipline looks very different across cultures. What are safe and legal ways for African parents to correct their children without crossing UK safeguarding boundaries? I know that in Scotland, for example, even smacking is illegal, but in England, within reason, but then reason is subjective. So how
Mm.
can African parents actually, like, what are the other ways that they can discipline their children? Because it's also important for children to understand consequences of actions. I cannot just say because I don't want social workers to come and fight me, then my child is doing something wrong and I don't
Now,
correct them. And then part B would be, what do parents actually then do? If, for example, maybe they were angry, they smacked their child, or they left a mark, and then the child disclosed in school, what do they then do? While some we want to do fight or flight, what's the actual response when social workers do get involved?
so we'll look at a number of ways in terms of what they intend as well. This is a very important question because discipline is one of the biggest cultural clutches African parents, face when raising children in the UK.
Mm,
And let me make it clear that discipline is not illegal. Correcting your child is not illegal. Setting boundaries is not illegal. The issue is how discipline is done. Okay, so in the UK law, it's very clear you must not hit a child in a way that leaves injury on them. In fact, you shouldn't even hit them at all. So we all know that in the African culture or in the African household, let me not generalize, because I know things are changing, people are learning, but stuff like clapping, smacking, pinching, hitting them with objects, making them to do all sorts of, punishment posture. We've all been there.
yeah.
All of this would inflict, but we do not actually mean that because one of the things that this thing does to children is harden their hearts.
Mm,
Because it gets to a point where they're actually thinking, is that not what mommy would do or what daddy would do? But in fact, there are some safe legal alternatives that African parents can actually take. And I know that sometimes I've spoken to so many people and they're thinking, is it not like, I'm spoiling them or I'm coming down to their level too much? Some have even said, is it not as though I'm losing my authority?
mm,
It doesn't make you less of a parent at all.
mm,
So let's start with clear communication and expectation. Okay. So sometimes what children wants to know is how we explain the rules to them. There's something I know called consequential thinking. And it's about, don't you think if you do this,
mm,
this is where you might end up. So let's say, for example, a child who doesn't go to school, truncate, just going from one place to the other. And the parent might say, what do you think might happen? You're skipping lessons, right? You're not paying attention. How do you think when time comes for exam or test, how do you think
Yeah.
you're going to pass? So that set them in that reflective mood. Actually, what dad is saying is right. What mom is saying is right. So it's about engaging them.
Mm,
But like I said, a lot of us are not raised that way,
mm,
where we have dialogue with our parents.
yeah.
And then, we've carried it into our own parenting
Mm-hmm.
where we don't hold and I think that is where African parents must start from. Let me use the word must. Clear communication and expectation. Okay? It's so, so important. And explaining to them consequences for their actions. Children would need to know that the choices they make in life would matter and determine the end result. You cannot have test and exam and you're gaming all the time and then you want something to change. Of course, all of this would cause frustration for any parent. Every parent, as far as I know, would want the best for their children. Another way is time out or time away,
Mm,
where this is not about isolation, but you're making them understand. You're giving them a time to have a break to reset. It's just like in schools where
yeah.
they call it detention, right?
Yeah, detention.
You know. And I know they use the word detention, but they put them somewhere. It might be a time that they give them a book to read and all of that. So we can also implement that. So everything is not about, use of force, bringing in belts, slapping them. No, it does nothing because before you know it, they will do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Another way is removing privileges,
Mm,
you know, and that would make them think as well. If they have phones, if they have games, if they have outings that they want to show. So
mm,
short-term loss of privileges is legal, is effective, and is also culturally appropriate. So we can put that in. Is there any particular thing that children would like that? Okay, if they're not doing what you're asking them to do, you can withhold those privileges.
yeah.
Another thing is about positive reinforcement. Now, I've talked about ways like how are we celebrating good behavior?
Mm,
Because what you see happen is every time we shout, you've done this again, you've done that, and all of this. But when they do well, do we
mm,
celebrate them as well? Do we celebrate them? So, celebrating good behavior may feel strange in a lot of African homes, but it actually works. So children will repeat what gets noticed. So when we
yeah.
celebrate them, well done. What's like well done? Does something to their self-esteem. Well done, you can do better. I'm proud of you, you
Mm,
know. So teaching as well, not just reacting. So a lot of times African parents delve into reaction. We're quick to react, but have
mm,
we stepped back to look into actually why is John, if I just use that name,
mm-hmm.
behaving this way? Why is he always behaving this way? So we teach them, and that teaching can include emotional regulation. You know, say for example, a child who is just really easily angered. How can you teach them to regulate their emotion? How can you teach children responsibility? So I'm just touching on some of the pressure
Yeah.
points. The pressure points could be depending on the ages and the stages of the children. It could be, for example, little things like they're not tidying up their rooms.
Mm,
Have we said, just go and do it and all of that, as opposed to, come, what is it that you're struggling with?
mm,
Let's do it together. Let's go to your room. Let's do it
mm,
together. And by doing that alone, you're doing one thing,
mm,
you're modeling good behavior, you're modeling support, you're also modeling that you can also be responsible. You're
yeah.
also modeling that the children can use their initiative as well. So we can also teach them problem solving.
Mm,
And to bring it down, I was reading something the other day that talks about as Africans, we have a lot of proverbs, right? We have a lot of adage.
yeah.
Even if they don't understand it in a native language, we can break that in. We have a lot of stories. We have a lot of, stories that teaches on morals, on a lot of
Mm,
things.
Mm.
Because I remember growing up, my dad would tell us, and some of those stories would actually look into what's it called? Morals, how you can live your lives, and all of that. you know. So these are the ways that we can bring it in. Let me go back to the question you asked, where families find themselves
Yeah.
where social services are already involved. Now, one of the things I will say is that is not a time to disengage.
Mm.
Because again, people will say, don't open your door, you know, don't open your door, don't answer your call, they will just go your way. I can tell you for free, they won't just go away, especially if there are safeguarding concerns,
Yeah.
especially if they have cause to investigate the likelihood of harm or the actual harm in itself. So
Mm.
I would say be transparent, be open to them, work with them. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, what does that name suggest? Child protection. They are
Yeah.
there to safeguard children. They are there to let you learn. They are there to let you know, actually, in this aspect of your parenting, you need to do one or two things and put things right.
Yeah.
They are there to look at the safety goals. So now we're involved. What can we put in place before we step out? They're not there forever. They want families to live independently.
Yeah.
So the hallmark is be open, be honest, when they are involved. And they
Mm.
will put some interventions in place. Let me break it down. Intervention is basically support. So, say, for example, let's say parents who are into domestic incidences, argument, fighting, beating
Mm.
each other, and all of that. They might ask you to go for counseling. They might ask you to go for some training that would
Yeah.
enlighten you about the impact of domestic abuse on children. Don't say no, you wouldn't go and do
Mm.
those courses. You need to, because you need to learn as well. So these are the ways that parents can actually, like, when they are involved, I would just say engage and genuinely engage. Don't engage because let me just engage and get them off my back. Genuinely engage so you can learn from the process.
Thank you so much. See my notes.
Oh
Two
my goodness.
pages. That was very, very explanatory. I'm sure that everybody listening now have like a better understanding of the things to do. And I like that you listed out other things that we can do to, correct our children. I remember speaking with a mom the other day and she was complaining about how her daughter doesn't listen, doesn't do like the basic things she's supposed to do. I'm like, turn off the Wi-Fi. Turn off the Wi-Fi. Like, let her understand that no screen time, no chores, no screen time. If you're not doing well in school, you're not going to come and watch TV at home. Turn off the Wi-Fi. Take away the tab. Even my child that is just 2, even without, I mean, at 2, you're not necessarily offending me. But if I see that,
Mm,
you're not, children, when they start watching something and you don't want them to maybe eat or you want them to do something else, they will say no. I'm taking it away from you. And I think that if parents, I think the problem is that a lot of parents are too busy to have to like take the time to have all these conversations to help.
yeah,
And then many parents react from maybe stress from work. So at the end of the day, when you see how a parent beat a child, in my mind, I'm like, there's nothing this child has done to you that is this bad that will warrant this. Maybe is money from, like, just the stress of life generally, and you're taking it out on your child. So I think it's very important that parents, when your child offends you or does something wrong, take out time to calm down first before you react. Like, even
absolutely.
me with my little girl, if she does maybe pulls something away or does something that she shouldn't do, I'll first of all go inside, I'll breathe in, breathe out. I'll be like, oh my God, oh my God. And then I'll come back and we'll have a conversation, even though she does not really understand. But even in that moment, I'm just like, what have you done? Like, you're even shouting. They can't even, really
Yeah,
understand. So thank you so much for that, other
pleasure.
options that we can use. Even I am learning for the future because especially now that these children are getting smarter and smarter with the generation, we need to learn more. Okay, so the next question is, I think you've touched a bit on it, but just if you could elaborate more. How can parents balance maintaining African cultural values like respect, responsibility, and manners while still parenting within UK guidelines? So I think this is where things like chores. So when is like the age appropriate time for my
Mm,
child to start doing chores, for my child to start washing, the dishes, or hoovering the house, things like that. Because some people will just say, your child shouldn't, be made to become a young carer or become, used at home for domestic work. So how
mhm,
can we balance? I want my child to be responsible. I'm training my child
mhm.
to be responsible, but I also don't want to overwork them, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
It does. And I think that that's a very good question because parent can absolutely continue to uphold African values while
Mm,
living and parenting in the UK. And I think the key is understanding how to express those values in a way that is safe, legal, and developmentally appropriate.
mm,
I use developmentally appropriate because of undue expectations that parents put on children.
mm,
Now, there's something about transference in, this was how my parents raised me. At age 5, I'm already doing this, I'm already doing that. That
yeah.
was because our parents didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So we need to match that. Of course, I am promoting African culture in my home, because African culture already promotes many strengths that
Mm,
aligns with UK expectations, such as respect, family unity, hard work, responsibility, caring for others, and what have you. But what we have to consider is how do we promote this in a way that don't breach safeguarding laws.
yeah.
And one of the things we can do is again focus on teaching, not punishment.
Mm,
I'll give us an example. Example like as Africans, we want to like when our children see elderly ones, the courtesy, right?
yeah.
We want even if they're not doing the full meal, the courtesy,
Yeah.
and even if our boys or our males are not fully prostrating, they just do it in a way.
Mm,
But again, why do I say focus on teaching, not to enforce? And this is where the problem is. Don't you know you have to do this? Just do it right now. They won't learn. But there
mm,
are questions like in our culture, this is how we do in our culture,
yeah.
And when they ask us questions back, we shouldn't shout because we need to realize that they are born into a different culture.
Yeah.
you know, they're born into a different culture where you go to work and someone who is older than you just call them by name.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah.
but I remember when I first got into this country as a student many years ago, and my first day in the lecture room, the lecturer actually said, "Well, we're doing an induction at the time, many years ago," and he said, "With my experience with African students, please don't raise your hand if you want to say anything." He said, "I'm not a knight, so don't call me sir." But that is how we were taught. Before you say anything
Yeah.
in class, you raise up your hand, even when they
Excuse
don't
me,
call
sir.
you. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, ma. You have to stay there. If you're not called, you dare not. You
Mm,
know. And with our children here, they'll just call you dad. Can I ask a question? Can I say this?
mm-hmm,
We shouldn't shut them down when they ask them because they don't go to school to see their mates frustrating and all of that.
mm-hmm,
Perhaps they do one or two, depending. So instead of shouting, instead of trying to enforce, we should give them reasons to some of the values. Say, for example,
mm,
our cultural ways. And again, it goes down to modeling. When they see us wear it, when they see us dress, oh, I like that. And
yeah.
they will be like, can I have one of those? And particularly, they will take interest in it.
Mm,
So imagine you just sewing one, come here, you need to measure up. You must wear this to church today. And it's like, so we give them the space and time to do that. So use of structure and consistency also matters. So clear routines, expectations about chores. Let's talk about chores. we look at their age, at their state, we introduce them to it gradually.
Mm.
The fact that perhaps before most of us even turned 10, we started putting pots on the stove and cooking and all of
Mm.
that, doing heavy dishes. You wash your own clothes with your hands. There's
Mm.
washing machine here.
Yeah, there's
You
dishwasher.
Absolutely. There's this dishwasher and all of that. So it doesn't mean that we will leave them but there's a way we introduce them to it.
Mm.
Respect for elders, taking responsibilities at home. There's a way we introduce them to it. How do we help them to maintain respect through connection? So respect must be maintained through connection, not
Mm.
fear. You know, when you build that connection with them, that connection will transfer to uncles, aunties, and all of that.
Yeah.
But if we start from the point view of fear, when any visitor comes to this house, you must do this. When those visitors are coming, they're not even looking forward in the first place.
Mm.
We have to do this again. And guess what? They will do it in a way that even you wish you never said
You
that
wish.
to them. There's a good afternoon, just for it and just walk
Mm.
away. But when you teach them, when you build respect through connection, they will do it with meaning. They will
Yeah.
do it with understanding. So the UK, living in the UK as an environment does not mean that we should neglect our cultures.
Mm.
No, far from
Mm.
it. We teach it from the point of how would they understand?
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, use of cultural stories,
Mm.
proverbs, you can even teach them the native song and it will sound funny to them. They will look forward to it. I remember my son growing up. Dad, are you telling us stories today? They look forward, even some
Mm.
stories that I make up, that I'll make up myself. They will look forward to it. So these are the ways. Talk about our food as well.
Mm.
So my bottom line is that nothing should be forced when
Yeah.
it comes to our culture. But the UK system does not say that you cannot,
Mm.
but it depends. And I know if we tip it over to religion, and I know that is huge as well, certain things, you can still do that. As
Mm.
Christians, some of us don't, celebrate certain things without
Mm.
mentioning. you know there's a way you can instill that in your children. This is what we believe, this is what we
Yeah.
stand for as Christians.
Yeah.
And schools and institutions would actually respect that. you
Mm.
know and you're not teaching them to go there as well and enforce their own cultural beliefs and religious beliefs on others.
Others.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's where it crosses the line, where they are going to school and saying this, and no, you're not saying that to them. So we need to avoid practices that causes safeguarding referrals. I'll
Mm.
come again, because when you come to culture, some people will tell you that is how that is the reason why I'm where I am today. If my
Mm.
parents did not do all those beatings, all those slapping, I can see the fruit in my life today. No, sir. No.
Yeah.
You know. So because the thing is that if we look back, yeah, if we're truthful to ourselves, those emotional damages that
Mm.
those things did to us, the trauma that a lot of us are still carrying till date, we don't even know,
Yeah.
and that goes to tell how we are somewhat. So let me break it down: teaching rather than punishing,
Mm.
communicating rather than controlling, guiding rather than intimidating. So there's two different things. When you teach someone as opposed to bully them into it, there's something when you communicate as opposed to control them to do it, because at the
Mm.
end of the day, they will say in their hearts, what is it about this culture? It's so hard.
Mm.
So you want them to enjoy it, you want
Mm.
them to flow in it. I'm delighted when secondary schools, when they do cultural day, and I see videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
African culture. And guess what? These are children born and bred in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that are happy to flaunt Nigerian flag. We see
Mm-hmm.
them on the way to work. You see the flag, Ghanaian flags, and
Mm-hmm.
Nigerian all
Mm-hmm.
over the places, African, continent,
Yeah.
country. with flag and all of that, with the dressing, and it cut across Asian culture and all of that. It is good. And that is because parents are dutifully, not in a controlling way,
Mm.
not in an intimidating way, not in a punishing way, but through teaching, communicating, and guiding children.
Thank you so, so, so much. Wow. In fact, you've already answered the next question. You've already touched on the next question. So I'm just going to, because of our time, I'm just going to go to my next question. I'll just merge the two together. So the next one is, how can immigrant parents build healthy, trusting relationships with their children, especially when culture, environment, and peer pressure clash? You've already talked a lot on that. So the next one is, many parents struggle with communication. What practical steps can African parents take to communicate better with their children and avoid misunderstandings that could escalate school or social services? So you talked about communication a bit, but for parents who, maybe as you said, a lot of people have trauma, maybe their
Mm,
parents never sat down with them to talk, and now they have their own children, and they're like, I don't even know where to start from. What can I do? I want to
mm.
be a better parent, but when people say, this is how I am, this is how I was raised, but now they are hearing that we need to do better. So what are the practical steps, in which parents can communicate better with their children? And in fact, my another of my question is, where can parents get practical help? So we've heard about how when there's an issue, social services come. But now I'm
Yeah.
a parent that I'm finding that I'm struggling with this and that. Where can I go to find help in the UK, that they will not use that one to now send social worker to my house? Like, I'm going there to say, you know what, my child's behavior, I'm struggling with it. Oh, I'm struggling with routine, I'm struggling with boundary, I'm struggling with discipline. What can I do? So yeah, how can parents do better generally?
So let's start with the issue of, many parents struggle with communication, as you
Yeah.
said, looking at the practical side. I mean, for me as an African parent living in the UK, one of the most important lessons I've learned is that communication can either protect your family or
Mm,
expose your family. And many of the cases that end up at school safeguarding meetings or with children's services are not because parents are bad,
mm,
but because of misunderstanding, poor communication, or a clash in cultural expectation. And I'll break it down. So, for example, if you're not communicating with your children, so let me say, for example, a lot of parents, and this is what we need to do better. If you have a child, once they enter school, try to understand their friendship cycle,
mm,
because that is very important and this will help you to know what actually is influencing your child, because children do not suddenly change in terms of their behavior. Apart from what they learn from home, the other part is what they learn and pick up from their children. How many child or how many, let's start with parents. I won't put it on the children. How many parents, African parents especially, children will come from school and, maybe you come from school, okay, you need to have your bath now, change your, do this, come and do that. Do we really take time? How was your day at school?
mm,
And when they say fine, what does that
mm,
mean? I attended a training many years ago. It's about motivational interviewing. And they taught us something about when someone say to you, even as an adult, how are you doing? The next thing, I'm fine. But what does that look like? When you go deeper, you will
mm.
see that there are
Yeah.
a lot of things behind that word fine. You can go further to say, what does that mean? What is fine? Tell me more. Question like, tell me more. What actually made your day fine at school today?
Mm,
And before you know it, someone who said fine initially, then they'll begin to tell you, oh, this did this. I wasn't actually happy about that. Okay. So how are you feeling now? How did that
mm,
affect your day? So we need to create that culture of open conversation at home.
mm,
So that is why Many parents will struggle because you don't even know this child. They go out in the morning, come back in the night. You observe something. Once you observe something about their behavior, about how they are reacting, the next thing as a responsible parent is call that child. Are you all right?
Mm.
Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Did anything happen at school today? Did you have your lunch? There are questions that would ask them that will make them. So I've always known that there is no safe place like home,
Yeah.
you know. So we made them create that daily thing that look, you can just come back home and put it on us, talk to us. Another way we communicate with children here is you explain the rules, don't just enforce them.
Mm.
You know, you explain the rules, don't just, we don't do a lot of explanations as African parents. So unexplained strictness can be misunderstood.
Mm.
So people should try, explain the rules. Why am I doing this? And we have to keep communication consistent between home and school. So many safeguarding referrals have actually happened because schools cannot reach parents. So
Mm.
when we don't respond to school messages, we miss appointments ourselves without explanation. And we use aggressive and defensive language with teachers. They'll start
Mm.
to think what is going on because for them it's how are you modeling?
Yeah.
Where as a parent you cannot control yourself. You're firing emails. So we have to be present. So the communication that we're talking about actually cut across, communication with your child or your
Mm.
children, but professionals, involved in their lives.
Mm.
They don't see you at parents' evenings, where it matters, where you need to learn and know about your children. So, as much as, of course, people want to work, make money, we also need to make time to attend very important meetings about our
Mm.
children. And this is where we're failing them. So,
Mm.
you're not going to school to hear some of the things that they think if you don't do this now, this child will not meet the expectations in this area.
Yeah.
The teachers will open up because when you go for to parents' evening, depending on the ages, you might actually need to speak to about 5, 10 teachers, right?
Mm.
And from what individual teacher will tell you, that gives you an idea of your child's behavior.
Mm.
It gives you an idea of their academic attainment. It gives you an idea of those they are, roaming with at school. So when we're not engaging with teachers or professionals involved in their life, how are we then going to have that two-way effective communication?
Mhm.
So we're not just letting ourselves down as parents, we're letting down the children.
Yeah,
Because that's why we
absolutely.
can collectively and collaboratively work with the teachers to ensure that things work well. So
Mm.
another way in terms of communication is we must avoid harsh, threatening, or intimidating languages. We have to. So our communication must be void of threat. I'll do this, because what we don't know is that some of these children pick some of these things from us
Yeah.
and even take them to school, and that's why they will call to say, we've seen your dad. They may not say that, perhaps we've seen your dad, the emails and how we address teachers. And when they see the same traits in our children, it may be
Yeah.
something you wonder why this is where this child is learning this from.
Mm.
So these are the things that we need to put together. So when you to look at communication with a child, it actually entails a lot of things. We have to pay attention to emotional cues. When a child is withdrawing, when a child becomes angry, when they
Mm.
share their frustrations with us, do we just shut them down or
Mm.
call them aside to like,
Mm.
how can I help you?
Mm.
So these are the so many ways we have to be honest. We have to ourselves model good communication. So I don't know if whether I've covered all the questions.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, as you were saying it, I was just in my head picturing myself sitting down with my children in future and having those our school conversations. Even with my little girl, when I pick her up from nursery, I'm like, "How was school today?" And she's like, "Fine." And of course, I can't go on with the conversation because she just knows that when you ask her how, she will say fine. And
Right.
but it's as there's no it's not too, it's never too early, to
Sure.
start getting used to those conversations. And when you were talking about communication, I remember the video I watched where the boy, as soon as he came down from the school bus and his mom picked him up, he's like, "Mom, terrible sandwich today." And his mom was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So apparently, oh, since his lunchtime and he had his lunch, the lunch was not nice, so he has been keeping it in his head. So the moment he saw his mother, that's the first thing is, and I love that the mother apologized.
Mm,
African parents will be like, "Eh, do you know how it took me? The stress to make your food for you, the money to buy it." So, and yeah, so just to add that apologizing to our children also when we are wrong, I'm sure that many African children will have those experiences of it's not you that did something, but they've already beat you before they now found out who did it. But nobody's going to apologize to you. So, but with the new generation children, when you maybe misunderstand your child or you find out that you are actually wrong, just
yeah,
apologize to the child, like,
yeah.
because you are modeling that. And the way couples also talk
Mm,
to themselves, the way that our mom also talks to themselves, children will pick, those words, children will pick from you. So, yeah, very, 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 very,
Like I
I mean,
said
children are
earlier,
just like very
it
interesting. So, the
doesn't.
second part of the question, which is like, my seventh question here. For parents who feel overwhelmed or unsure, where can families find real, practical, and culturally sensitive help? And how can they advocate for themselves if they feel misunderstood by the system? And just to add what I was asking earlier, like when parents find out that they are struggling, how can they actually reach out to this system to say, "I'm struggling with my child's behavior, I'm struggling with parenting, can you point me, to classes, to groups, without feeling judged?" Yeah.
I mean, there are a number of ways that these can actually be done. Number one is, for us to look for culturally sensitive organizations.
Mm,
And the fact is that there are a number of them out there. So and this is where in social services, we have just both statutory and non-statutory
mm,
services. And in the era that we're in, with the reform going on, within children's social care, where the emphasis are now on early help,
mm,
so there are a lot of, community hubs here and there, all across the UK.
mm-hmm,
So where you can self-refer, and this is the tricky bit, your first question about the fear, and that's what
mm,
people don't know. So if you are noticing anything at all, you can actually call up. So
yeah,
you calling up, tell them something that you have insight and you're willing to help. So that does not mean that at that point a social worker will be allocated. It
mm,
might just be a family support worker that
mm,
will come in and look at local services around you tailored to meet
to your
whatever
needs,
that is
yeah,
going on. Because for us, I remember growing up, and some children, with the knowledge that I have now, that have maybe ADHD and all of that,
yeah,
in those days they were beaten because for them it's stubbornness
yeah,
and all of those things. And we have to have a knowledge of all of these kind of symptoms.
yeah,
So reaching out, say for example, even social services to call, they will direct you early. But what we do is conceal. What
wait,
we do is
yeah,
keep the secret. I don't want, and that is misinformation and
mm,
misrepresentation of how social services work that has filtered through into African communities, So when we call, not necessarily social worker, because don't forget the trajectories I explained earlier. If there are no significant harm or likelihood of it, there's no cause to investigate anything at all. And there's nothing bad, even if social services are involved and they are supporting you under Section 17, child in need. It
yeah,
may not have anything to do with your parenting. It might just be that you need help and
your
support with
child's
your children.
behavior, yeah,
You know, I mean, like I said earlier, life happens. Some parents, African parents, are single parents.
Mm-hmm.
And on your own, maybe the death of the dad or the death of the mom, or the dad or mom just walked away, and you're left on your own with 4 children and you're
Mm.
struggling, reach out for help. So there are African-led parenting groups. What about our churches? What about community organizations that understand our culture and peculiar challenges, to us? So there are groups out there that we can reach out to. So when we reach out, even to go to libraries, you will have
Mm.
flyers, leaflets everywhere. Another thing we have to do well is we need to build support network.
Mm.
Now, a lot of African parents would struggle because, like I said earlier, back home, the community is the
Yeah.
responsibility of the child. Now, coming here where it seems in quotes, everyone to themselves,
Yeah.
and that sense of isolation comes in. And no, you're not alone. Build network as well. In the school, build network. There are safeguarding leads at school. There are pastoral leads at school that you can talk to. Ask questions, share
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And of course, you can also advocate for yourself as well. So these are the things, like I said, depending on what is going on, there are organizations that fight the right for Christians that we know about, the organization that, and most of these organizations are even charities that you
Yeah.
don't even have to pay. So in a nutshell, it's about being open. It's
Mm.
about getting information that would help you and not just assume that when you call social services or ask for help, they're coming to take your children.
Mm.
No, it doesn't work that way. So we need to learn and just reach out and gain all this information.
Thank you so, so much. Please, if you have any questions for our guest, please put it in the comments so that we can ask him as we wrap up. There's one question that I know that someone has, asked me in a group that I was in before. And she shared how she was struggling with her teenager's behavior and things like that, and then was contemplating taking the child back to Nigeria. So a lot of
Oh,
people recently are like, you know what, let's just take them back to Nigeria. When they grow up, they'll come back and do their uni here and things like that. So for you as a father who has teenagers, and also with your knowledge of the system, do you think that it is a safer or logical idea to say I'm sending my children back home so that they can understand the culture? At least back home nobody's going to call social services for me and things like that. And when parents try to do that, are there consequences? So is there a way that the government or the laws will know? Of course, GPs will know that your child is no longer in the country. And are there consequences that parents will face if they choose to take their children back home and they are here and they continue to work here?
so number one, we must understand that every parent have what we call parental responsibility for
Mhm.
their children. And you're not breaking the law as a parent if you decide to leave the UK and go somewhere else. You're not.
Mm.
You're not breaking the law. Now, where things will change slightly is where social services are involved.
Mm.
There are safeguarding concerns. And then, because of the involvement of social services and the concerns that they are currently addressing with your family, you then want to take the children out of the country.
Right.
That may be a problem because at that point in time, they are still very, very well concerned
Mm.
about, especially if it's your parenting of the children that is constituting harm.
Mm.
So I would not suggest that at all. And if anyone is thinking about that at that point, I would say it's important that you have discussion with the social worker involved. We've had cases where because in the face of law, it will come to you absconding with those
Mm.
children at that point. And we've seen places where there've been port alerts, there've been airport alerts to say that they cannot take those children out of the country. Where some parents have actually done that and managed to take them out, we have organization called Social Work Across Borders. Social
Mm.
services in the UK have actually sent social workers over there to look into the welfare and well-being of those children in that country that they are in.
Mm.
So that is one aspect. The other scenario would be I'm not known to social services, nothing at all, but I'm struggling with this child. Every parent have the right to do whatever they want to do, I will say. But you then need to weigh the options.
Mm.
Now, this is where it will become tricky. A child who has lived here all their life,
Yeah.
and you're thinking you want to take them. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, because nobody can advise you how you run your
Mm-hmm.
family. But consider number one, where you're taking that child to, is it safe?
Mm.
Have you made the proper and appropriate arrangement
Mm.
that will cater for their well-being when they are there? So that when push comes to shove, you're
Mm.
not regretting your actions about that. So there has to be adequate arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
If you are someone who will properly look after them, if you've made proper arrangement that will cover everything, that is fine. The other bit that you said, sending children home to go and learn about the culture. Personally, I don't think that is appropriate. You can go on holiday together
Yeah.
for them to learn and see certain things. But just to put them there to learn about the culture, I'll be thinking, for what reason? Because they
Mm.
can go on holiday with you. We have teachers here in the UK who teaches local languages
Yeah.
for those who are born here. For some of us who are Nigerians, we have teachers who teaches Yoruba. You know, we have those who teach Igbo language, and people are picking it up without even having to travel out. The same
Mm.
way, we have people in Nigeria who can speak fluently the UK accent, American
Mm-hmm.
accent, and they've not even stepped to, they've not even been to the airport.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, but like I said, weigh the options carefully.
Mm.
If you're thinking, this child is beyond my control, at some point, social services will step in. If you have adequate arrangement, haven't done all, why not? At that point, social services are not involved. You have parental responsibility. You can decide reasonably as an adult and parent what is appropriate for your child
Mm.
or children.
Thank you. So, I mean, I remember when I was in secondary school, we had like in boarding house, I had like two people, students that their parents sent them from the UK because of bad behavior. So it was almost like this is your punishment. So they'll say, go and finish secondary school in Nigeria. When you don't see 24 hours lights, when you don't see Wi-Fi and everything, you're going to behave yourself. And yeah, but just as you said, it's best to weigh options. But for cases like
Absolutely.
maybe, as you said, somebody can come with their partner and then things happen. You're now a single mom to four and you cannot cope. If you think you have a better support network back home, it might be helpful instead of you struggling and putting your children in harm's way because of lack of help or lack of support. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can see any questions. I'm trying to look at all my various screens. Can you
I
see any
can't
question on your
say.
screen?
No, I think it's just comments. People are
Oh, okay.
saying, yes,
Okay.
I
So
can't
my
see
own
any
final question to you will be, as a father, I know you have a 15-year-old.
16.
Six. Okay. It's actually me that will soon come and start saving for now. So based on like this one is remove your social worker hat.
Okay.
How did you successfully raise your children in the way of the Lord? I know we've talked about culture, but we also understand that as African parents, another part of our culture is our religion, as he said. And
Absolutely.
in a system where people have different opinions, people have
Mm,
different what's that word? Orientation. Like people have the right to either not be Christian, some people don't believe in God or whatever, but then you have your beliefs, so how have you for your let this be like word of advice to younger parents like myself who also want to like be intentional about parenting? Were there struggles when you started? Were there
mm.
sacrifices you and your family had to make? Maybe your wife, like people always say things like, I cannot stop working. And I'm just like, how will we do it if we stop working, like all of that? So what's your advice to younger
So
parents?
it won't be one size fits all,
Mm,
because situation in individual homes will be different. especially when it comes to balancing work and all of that. But let's
Yeah.
come to the aspect of raising them in the way of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing is you cannot give what you don't have.
Mm.
And I think it starts with us as parents, okay? Because a lot of people, say, especially those that, come to the UK, not born here, but of course, found the same here and then raising children. My advice would be that start to model what you want to see.
Mm.
So if what you've not started with them as a child, you've left a child to his or her own device,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly at age 10, they are now, at age 10, or let's even say 6, and then you suddenly, are awoken. Oh, we need to start to play in this house. We need to No, they
Mm.
might yield with maybe in the sense of compulsion,
Mm.
but start early is what I would
Yeah.
say. Start early with them. Start early. I'm not saying make a 2-year-old to fast, but let them see you pray. Let
Mm.
them see you go to church. Let them see you, all those things. And it comes with our culture as well.
Yeah.
Let them see you. If you're, I know some people, they will tell you, oh, since I've come into the UK, I stopped eating swallow. No, I don't like it at all. And I'm now this. Well, good for you, good for you. But everything you want them to see, Paul said
They
something
need.
in the scripture.
Mm.
He said, follow me as I do what? As I follow
Follow
Christ.
Christ. Yeah.
Right? So what was he saying there? He's saying, listen, the moment I saw following Christ, don't follow me anymore. You know what?
Mm.
I have a pointer. I have a reference point. So what is it that our children are seeing in us? So
Mm.
that is it for us. We started early. Anything. And I'm not saying there won't be pushback at some point, there will be challenges, they will ask questions, of course. But when you have the right foundation for them, you can
Mm.
build on that. Even the Bible says, if the foundation be destroyed, what
Mm-hmm.
can the righteous do? Meaning
Mm-hmm.
that the righteous would hardly do anything
Mm-hmm.
because everything starts with foundation. So, what foundation are we building for them? Have you built the foundation of prayer? Have you built the foundation of devotion? Have you built the foundation of understanding, mutual respect between you and your wife in the home? And all of a sudden, because the thing is that what they observe from us, they learn much more than that, than any other thing.
Yeah.
Because they look at us, you want me to do this, even you. Imagine you telling your children, tidy up. And when they come to your room, they will even shake their head to like, but
Mm.
it starts with us, and that is the
Yeah.
secret. Of course, with God, committing them into God's hand with prayer and all of that. But your life as the first teacher, the first
Mm.
prophet, the first thing that they will see is you. Before they even, before they go to school, they spend how many years with you at home?
Yeah.
Exactly. So those formative years, those foundational years, what is it that you are keeping them with?
Mm.
And the man of God said, I think someone was having an interview with someone, a popular, known person that everyone, I'm not mention name. And this guy said, they said, so he's rich. He's a
Mm.
millionaire or billionaire. So what are you planning to leave for your children? When you're gone or when your career? He said, he called all his children and said, listen, whatever I make for myself is for me and your mom. And the children were like, what? And he said, yes. And he said something profound that I caught. He said, it's not about what I leave for them, it's about what I leave in them.
Mm.
Because what you leave for them, they might even mismanage. What
Yeah.
you leave in them, those morals, those values, stays with them. And they can build on that and even get much more than yourself.
Mm.
So every parent should be thinking about what am I leaving in them? What am I depositing
Mm.
in them? And that is what will give them that base in life.
Wow. Mm. Ah, that one. Eh. That's our motto for today. What are
Mhm.
you leaving in your children? It's not just go and pack shift and give them fine shoe. The values, the
Absolutely.
morals, the
What are we
words, the
leaving in them?
prayers, the affirmations, the
Mhm.
honestly. And I always tell my mom friends, I say, see, children don't need the expensive shoes in most expensive shoes in the world. Like, I'm sure that every child will prefer a 1 hour one-to-one with his or her mother than an expensive shoe. They just want you, they just need you. So I always like to tell people that yes, I understand that money is important, but if the quest for money is taking you away from your family, especially your children, then you need to find a way to balance it. I know that it might not be easy all the time, but that your annual leave that you are ordering for and bear. Take 1 day, 2 days, once in a while, and just be at home
Mm.
with your children. Let them know that you're there. And honestly,
Absolutely.
I just feel that God really, really helps us. Thank you so much
My pleasure.
for
My
today.
pleasure.
And to wrap up, I want you to share about Thrive. That's the name, yeah?
Pride network, yes.
Yes. So Mr. Oyinka has an initiative called Thrive Network, and he's just going to share with us because the day he told me about it, I'm like, people need it. People need it. So please, over to you, sir.
So, so Thrive Network is an initiative that empowers men. And again, we all know about the subject matter of domestic abuse, right? And what I've found out is that having worked with men who are perpetrators of domestic abuse for
Mm,
many years, I've come to realize that there's the other side of the coin.
mm,
What about men who are suffering abuse from their partners themselves?
mm,
And this is quite prevalent within African cultures. But when you say it, people don't say it because I work with men who have been abused or even going through abuse as we
mm.
speak. But because of the shame, the
Yeah.
secrecy, the embarrassment, they cannot come out and actually say, this is what I'm going through. My wife is
Mm,
actually abusing me. So that is the scope of Thrive Network. How can we get support for these men? So
mm,
one of the things I do is complete assessment on them because of course I don't just take it on the face value. If a man is saying, "No, I've been abused," we do a thorough assessment. We look at the facts, we look at police reports, and then once those facts have been established, the next thing is the impact of this abuse on those men.
mm,
And then with their permission and consent, I work with some therapists, and then they are assigned to therapists, and they have ongoing support as well, depending on the situation. And in the African culture, it sounds absurd, right? Because people will be thinking, people will even laugh. And this is the reason why these men would never come forward.
yeah.
How would it sound for me to say that my wife is abusing me
Mm,
financially, that my wife is abusing me physically, and
mm,
all the kinds of that my wife is controlling me? But the fact is that this is actually happening right
mm,
in the UK and everywhere, really,
mm,
because I've spoken to men cut across continents that are actually going through. So
mm,
that is what Thrive Network is about. How can we empower men? How can we? And in a system that I can say it is originally designed to support women. And one of the key things I made clear in everything when I speak about Thrive Network is the fact that I condemn all kind of abuse, whether
yeah.
to a man or a woman. It is not right. And the
Mm,
hidden victim in all of these are children that are
mm,
witnessing abuse, children seeing dad, being beaten by their mom, and vice versa.
mm,
They are what I call the hidden victims of domestic abuse. So it's a very sensitive project. It's a very, some people call it controversial because
mm,
all we hear in the media landscape, is that men must be labeled as perpetrators.
mm,
But we have statistics and research everywhere that tells us that men are dying.
mm,
I think it's 1 in 5 men who die because of abuse. It's all over the place.
mm.
So that is what Thrive Network is all about.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. So, if there's any man that is listening right now or is going to listen to the replay, if they want to get in touch with Tribe Network, is there like an email address,
Yes,
website,
there's an
anything?
email. We're working on our website. There's an email, Thrive Network 22
Okay.
at gmail.com. There's an email that people can email, get in touch,
Mm,
and let us see how we can help you, how we can support you about anything that you might be going through. It's a confidential space because,
mm.
like I said earlier, it's quite sensitive in nature, and men would often not come out and share something like that. So it will be a confidential space that, would provide that level of support.
So, Tribe Network 22 at gmail.com.
Yes.
Tribe Network 22. So, please, men, as he said, it's, I mean, a lot of men don't speak up because they think that they are not going to get support, or they feel like they're going to be judged. But on and on, we see how men also experience all forms of abuse. So please, if you know anybody in these shoes, or you are, don't be shy. Your mental health matters, your life matters, your future matters, the life of your children matter. So please send an email to tribe network 22 at gmail.com if you're a man experiencing any type of domestic abuse in your home or in life generally, basically. Thank you. Oh my God, this has been
You too.
about an hour and a half of wisdoms. I have pages. I have 4 full pages of notes because I'm
Wow.
living here a better parent in Jesus' name. And I'm just here to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much for your
Pleasure.
time. And I pray that as you've sown into us, as you deposited into us, that God would bless you in return. I pray that your children that God has given you the wisdom and the grace to nurture well, they will continue to make you proud in Jesus' name. I pray that
Amen.
God will bless your home. I pray that your children would also grow up to become great parents to their own children in the name of
Amen.
Jesus. Thank you so much,
Amen.
sir.
Thank
God
you. Thank you
bless
for having
you.
me.
Thank you. Let me see your heart emoji. Say thank you to our guests. I'm sure in fact, a lot of people have been on and off, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to catch this replay, and clips of it I'm going to share across other social media networks because this is a topic that we all must learn. So thank you so much, sir.
My
God
pleasure.
bless
Thank
you.
you
Oh, I
too.
can
Thank
see the
you too.
hearts. I can see the hearts. I can see the hearts. Please put in the chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. God bless you. I'm so grateful. My regards to
Thank
your
you.
wife as
You're
well
welcome.
and your
And you.
children
And you.
for giving us out of daddy and me time for sharing their time with us tonight. Thank you so much, sir. God
You're
bless
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
Somebody said a very informative session.
Oh,
Thank
fantastic.
you. Thank you for joining. To everybody that has stayed, thank you for joining. And I really, really do hope and pray that we live here better parents. Even if you're not a parent yet, just keep all of this. Even if you're not in the UK, this is not even just about UK. Just live here with the, determination to be better parents to your children. And God will help us in Jesus' name. Thank you,
Amen.
sir.
Thanks a
Have a
lot.
lovely, lovely week.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God, that was amazing. This is like one session that I've been looking forward to all year, and I was like, we must have this before the end of the year because I mean, so many stories now and now again, so many stories about people being abused, children being abused. There are different things that we hear today. And I just felt like, no child deserves, to be abused. No child deserves to grow up in a home without love. Like every time I look at my child, I'm just like, God has given me this destiny to raise. God trusted me. Excuse me, please. God trusted me with this life. God trusted me with this child. And I know I'm going to give account. I'm going to give account of every child that God entrusted in my hands. So that is why I cannot afford to fail as a parent. I cannot afford to do parenting anyhow. I cannot afford to just do parenting on vibes and, as it goes. We have to be intentional spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially. I know that the aspect of money, like I think in the new year, if we cannot have it before the end of this year, in the new year, I'm going to get a guest that is really going to talk to us about money, because I believe that there is one thing to, want to be looking for more money. But there's also another thing to know how to maximize the one that you have in your current season. So there are moms, for example, in the UK that have 3 children, 4 children. By the time they calculate how much childcare is, it is hard to find a job that pays more than that. So many of these moms stay home, either depend on benefits or, excuse me, just depend on one household income. But then there are investments, that you can do with with as little as £50. There are little things here and there that you can still do to make money while waiting for that time, because these children will go to school eventually. It's I think these sacrifices are time bound because they are going to grow up. Your children will grow up. So now it's looking like, oh my God, how am I going to survive? But they are going to grow up. They are going to then start going to primary school, and then you can have more time to work. But if you have a lot of children now and you're just like leaving them here and there because you want to work, you need to sit down to really calculate it. That does it worth it? Like, does it really worth? For me, as I said earlier, when I started work, I was paying £70 a day for my daughter's nursery. But because I was new into the country, I had spent a little while, looking for a proper job. When my job came, my daughter was 9 months. And of course, mom guilt almost finished me. But one thing that, my husband and I decided as a family is opportunities don't wait. All right. And because we have one, so it was easier, quote unquote, to sacrifice and say, you know what, let me start this job and grow, on the job. Now my daughter is over 2 years. I've been in my job for about 18 months and I've grown, I've been promoted because I stayed true. So when the salary was not salarying because of childcare and I had to do business here and there, pick this one, pick that one, it was hard. But now I'm beginning to get some balance here and there because my daughter is older, she can, things are better generally. So as parents, don't just come into the UK and everybody start looking for work. Sit down as a family, balance it, calculate it. Who is going to be home? And fathers, please, when you're coming from Africa, wherever, whatever country, you need to understand that in the UK, if your wife is working and you are working, it just means that you also are going to stay with the child or with the children. And vice versa. You can't expect a woman to go in the morning, come back at 10 p.m. And then you have been home since 6 p.m. and you're expecting her to, make the meal. See, we have so many sessions we're going to do on Parenting Unfiltered, because to be better parents, to be good parents, you also have to be a good spouse. You have to be a wonderful spouse to your partner. I pray God will help us. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Please share the replay of this video to anybody that you think would benefit from it. And by God's grace, next month we're going to have another session before we wrap up the year. I think I'm going to be interviewing my mom next month. I've not told her, but I think I'm going to be interviewing my mom next month, just to sit down. Let's talk about parenting in the different generations. And I'm very sure that we're going to gain a lot of knowledge and wisdom from that. So thank you. Have a lovely week. Tomorrow is December. Christmas is in the air. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying till the end. My Instagram family, thank you. Don't forget, Parenting Unfiltered is live on YouTube. So if you ever join on Instagram, just get over to YouTube. Instagram is just like make you know that we are live on YouTube, if that makes sense. Anyway, have a lovely night and have a lovely week ahead. I love you. God bless you.